and this is the Age Group Multisport podcast with me, Richard Conway. This is a platform for age group multisport athletes to showcase their journeys. Welcome along to the Age Group Multisport podcast, and we're on episode 73, and on this episode we have age grouper Julie Gadsden, and Julie is in the age group 70 to 74, and she reached out and said that she'd like to share her story and hopefully inspire others. I can honestly say, after reading the email I got from Julie and then sitting down for a chat with her, I'm totally inspired. I think it's unbelievable that she's doing what she's doing, and she's looking so well and fit, and just wait till you hear what she's got planned for this year coming up. It's quite amazing. And the other interesting thing is that how she compares herself with her peers and her friends that don't do sport, and how important it is in her mind that we keep on going as long as we can. And that includes strength training and eating right and all the rest of it, and we go into that towards the end of the podcast. So it was really wonderful to catch up with Julie and find out her story. I hope you enjoy it. The season's now started in earnest, and the second qualifier for the World Duathlon Championships took place at the weekend at Clumber Park. I was there. I wasn't racing. My Achilles didn't allow me to do that. Mrs. C was racing, along with fellow club members Phil Jackson and Charlotte Schofield, and they were doing the sprint and the standard respectively. And Clumber Park's quite a tough course, undulating to say the least. The road surfaces are horrible, and the run's an incline out and a downhill back, so they're not mega steep, but very challenging. And it was nice to see Stuart Fisher, David Pearson and Andrew Stokes, who've been on the podcast, racing there at the weekend. Stuart finished 5th in his age group, David finished 2nd in his age group, and Andrew finished 1st. So congratulations, guys, well done. It was well organised as usual, so well done to another great race. And the sun even came out, so that was good, especially when we were supposed to be getting rain. It was a good morning's racing, really good to watch. There was also loads of sport on last weekend. We watched the Ironman Texas, where Kat Matthews was racing, and what a finish. She was, I think, 6-7 minutes coming off the bike, and she just clawed her way back through the field and won. Made up that time on the run, and it was epic, and it was so nice to see after what she's been through last year. And if you don't know Kat's story, she got knocked off she was training for Ironman Texas last year, and she got knocked off a bike. She got hit by a car and ended up in a neck brace, and long road back, but she smashed it. So onwards and upwards for her. Really, really good to watch. And the men's was won by American Rudy von Berg. And I'd tuned in specifically to watch Kat and Joe Skipper, the other Brit, who was in with a chance to take the win, and also to qualify for, in Joe's case, Nice at the World Championships. And being a bit behind after the swim, but having a really strong bike, Joe was making progress and catching up with the leaders and taking time out of them. And then, unfortunately, he took a wrong turning, and that was that. So, hard lines, Joe, live and learn. And he just become a dad, probably last week or the week before. He's gone all that way, and unfortunately for him, it's not gone to plan. If you don't know Joe, he's also got a podcast called Triathlon Mockery. Very funny, very down to earth. Him and Tom, I'm not even going to pronounce his surname, his mate, run it. And if you haven't heard it, go across there and give him a listen. But yeah, unlucky to see. And then the London Marathon was on Saturday morning. Another 2 epic races, men's and women's, and all the inspirational club runners that were running. The men's winner was Kelvin Kiptum, and he broke the course record. At one point we thought he was going to go into 2 hours. He was going that quickly, and he's now the second fastest marathon ever with a time of 2 hours 1 minute and 25 seconds. Only Kipchoge's run faster than him. So fantastic race and a fantastic time. And in the women's, wow, what I think you've got to watch it to believe. Sifan Hassan ran 2 hours 18 minutes 33. And it was built up as one of the strongest women's fields in history. She'd never run a marathon before. It was a debut, which makes it even more remarkable. She dropped right back. She stopped twice to stretch out her glutes and her hamstrings and her quads, and slowly got back into the race. She was running faster than the front group. She was picking people that had passed her off along the way, and it came down to a 3-way sprint finish, and she just went for it, and with her track pace she came out on top. But what a race. It was just unbelievable. We were just watching her take all these athletes over and over and thinking, oh, she's not gonna reach the front pack, and sure enough she did, and then that was it. What a race. And then after that there was the last cycling classic of the season, the Liège-Bastogne-Liège, and it was supposed to be head to head with Tadej Pogačar and Remco Evenepoel. They weren't televising it till about 12:30, and at that point Tadej Pogačar had crashed out and he'd broken his wrist in a couple of places, so he was out of the race, so that was unfortunate. So Remco was the favourite to win the race, and being the world road race champion and also winning the race last year, he went on and did it again. Nobody could live with him. One of the climbs he just went, Pidcock went across with him, but just couldn't keep up with him. He just went, and won by a comfortable margin again. Pidcock dropped off, but tenacity of the guy, he came back. Three of them got away, including Ben Healy from Ireland, and it was a sprint to the finish, and Tom got second, so that was nice to see. But yeah, fantastic race again, and on to the Giro next in a couple of weeks' time, so that'll be pretty cool. So loads of sport to watch. Really enjoyed it. That's all we did on Sunday because it was wet and miserable outside, and yeah, we just sat on the settee and watched sport. Got a couple of new podcasts out this last couple of weeks. One's by the British Triathlon Association, and I think it's called Not Another Triathlon Podcast, and it had one of the former guests on here, Donald Brooks, and he was on there. I think they had about 3 or 4 guests on at the same time. It was good, but it was a bit confusing at times to know who was speaking. But give it a listen. It's interesting. Again, different perspectives from different athletes. And then another new one is the Brownlee Fitness podcast. Not sure whether you're aware that the Brownlees have now set up a Brownlee Fitness, which basically is you can go in and join their team, and they have different plans and things that'll help with coaching. And one of their head coaches, Mark Buckingham, who's well known in the triathlon world as training with the Brownlees themselves and a good friend of theirs. He was on there and he was discussing triathlon training consistency. And Pete Pastides is the presenter, and he's also an age group athlete. So yeah, it was a good listen. Nice to hear Mark Buckingham's thoughts on consistency in Ironman, and Pete's thoughts on where the podcast was going to go and why it was set up. So yeah, 2 good podcasts there. Catch up with them if you can. And the last podcast I'm going to recommend is How They Train podcast, and he was interviewing Kat Matthews, who I said earlier just won Ironman Texas, and it goes into the background about her accident and stuff. So if you want to know more about her, it's all in there, and it's she was quite candid. So, and good luck to all the age groupers who are racing over at the World Multisport Championships over in Ibiza. Have a great time. It's a lovely island to go and visit, but to race in. I raced in 2018 over there and had a really good time. So hope you enjoy it, hope it goes well and you get the outcome that you want. And that's about it for now, I think. Time for the main event. Hope you enjoy Julie's story. Hope she inspires you. She certainly inspired me. And we'll see you on the other side. How are you?
Good. Yes, just getting ready for... I'm sitting in amongst piles of packing. We're heading off to Mallorca next week for 10 days of holiday, and then I'm off to Ibiza for the first race of the season. So, slightly chaotic. Just been making all my notes of where I'm supposed to be when doing what in Ibiza, and get myself organised.
Yeah. So Mallorca, is it Ibiza straight from Mallorca, or are you coming home?
Yeah. So we're just gonna hop over. We always go on holiday there anyway at this time of year. It just happened to be convenient. We just hop across to Ibiza and I can do the race. So
ideal.
Handy. Yeah. And how was your race? All right?
Yeah, it was really, really good. The race went as well as could be expected.
Was that duathlon?
Yeah, it was duathlon, yeah.
I hate duathlon, I really do, with a vengeance, yeah.
That's funny, isn't it? How we all like different things.
I can't just go out and run. I've got to do something first.
Yeah. So it was just brilliant. I mean, the location was fab.
Excellent.
And yeah, it was really well organised, and had a really good time. There was a group of us of 8 from our club went over, and it just makes such a difference when you're there together. So
yeah, we've got a couple from the club and a few more people I know who are going to Ibiza. It's Madrid that we're turning out mob-handed for. So there's half a dozen or more of us, 8 of us, I think, or something going to Madrid. So that's great.
Cool. Well, just introduce yourself and give us a little bit of background of growing up and what activities you did and how you got into multisport.
Okay, well, good to be chatting to you, Rich. Growing up, I did practically no sport at all. All right with the sports that involves staying still, so I could throw a shot put and I could throw a javelin probably, but anything that involved aerobic sport and activity was I just hated. So I went out of my way to avoid all sport at school. Later on, turned out that I got asthma, so that probably explains why it felt so awful. But they didn't diagnose it in those days. And then carried on not doing sport really until I was almost 40. But in the meantime, in my 20s and 30s, did some sailing, did some mountaineering, cross-channel yacht racing, headed off to places like Nepal and Svalbard and Greenland and did crazy things on snow and ice with tents. And then I guess that was part of it. I found it very difficult going up mountains. You'd go up to about, get the cable car up to about 2,000 meters and I couldn't breathe. So it occurred to me that if I improved my aerobic capacity, it might be a good idea because I'd find it easier to climb mountains. And at the same time, I was sort of late 30s working in London, which was a hell of a commute and it was just wearing me down. So thought I'd have a go at running around St James's Park. I made it about 50 metres before I collapsed in a heap and realised that this was going to be quite an effort. Of course, you didn't get couch to 5K programmes in those days. This was sort of late 80s. So you had to sort of make it up as you went along, and it's not the way to do it, I tell you. Just trying to run hard until you fall over, and then see if you can run a bit further and fall over. But eventually got there. Part of which was I had to have fairly serious knee surgery in the early 90s. And the rehab program was really, really tough. But I buried myself in that. And I think that gave me a mental fortitude that has served me well ever since. So it may have been a hell of a year getting my knee rebuilt, but it was it certainly did my mind a lot of good.
Yeah. And just going back to your sailing and mountaineering, how did that come about?
Well, sailing, I live near the south coast, so I started up with some dinghy racing, and then friends were getting into windsurfing, which was the in thing at the time. So I bought a windsurfer and did that. And then being in the civil service, the civil service had a racing yacht, which we could go and race on. So it was never awfully serious, but we did a lot of cross-channel yacht racing and sort of race over to France, have a good meal, and then sort of pootle on back again. And that took me away from home quite a lot. And my husband doesn't like anything with water. So we used to walk. And then we thought, well, if we could walk up that glacier, we could get some interesting places in the Alps. And so took a few training courses, and so started doing some easy 4,000 meter peaks in the Alps. And it was something we could do together. And similarities to sailing, I suppose, because it's a lot of ropes and a lot of,
yes.
But you get to sleep at night in the Alps. So rather than having to be up all night on a boat. So, so that, and then we took us further afield over to more exotic countries to go and do some more climbing. So, and that was interesting. Again, the yacht racing teaches teamwork, which is quite interesting. But then once running turned into a sort of social activity in my 40s. We set up a running club in the village and used to sort of run around the South Downs extremely slowly. And that was really the start of the sort of, quotes, athletic career. But I never saw it as being anything more than just a bit of fun.
Yeah. You say that athletic career, I think anybody who gets out there and actually gets off the couch, they're an athlete. Doesn't matter what level, doesn't matter what you do, run, walk, run. It's doing something, aren't you? It's what the body needs at the end of the day. It's what we're to do.
It's difficult. Calling yourself, getting to the idea of calling yourself an athlete is quite a challenge when you've come up through a different route. So when I got going with my first coach for triathlon, which we'll come on to in a while, she was trying to persuade us that we were athletes. And we said, no, we're not. We're just having some fun with this. But eventually you get to label yourself as an athlete and a triathlete. So it's, again, it's a mental game, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's important as well because we put so much into these things. I think it's well deserved. So you've told us about the sailing and the mountaineering. What, just out of interest, you said some other peaks. What peaks did you actually go to?
Right. So I never made it up Mont Blanc because I had a cold at the time. So that was not the best one I ever did, I suppose, in the Alps was the Jungfrau. That was a good long day. So 10 hours of climbing and coming back down again. And then we did some, headed over to Nepal and did, again, I didn't make up Mera Peak because I got a cold. But just being in those high altitude places, with the mountains, it's just beautiful. So, and as long as I acclimatized right in the Himalayas, it was fine. So you take 2 weeks getting used to the altitude, then I could do anything. But I go and just try and do it, and it would have been a nightmare. So it taught me the importance of preparation.
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of things now on the basic TV channels that you can watch of all these fantastic guys and girls that are doing all these mountaineering. I just watched one on Netflix. No, actually it was Disney. It was one called Rescuing Michael. And it was the youngest mountaineer at 22 ever to scale Everest. Yeah. And he got up, but he didn't come down. So it was about his brother going back after 20 odd years to try and find his body. And it was just heartbreaking, to be honest. And you don't realize that on that mountain alone, the amount of dead bodies that are there, and it certainly was an eye opener.
It's way beyond my efforts, but we only got as far as what the French would call assez difficile. So it required some technical knowledge, and you had to have the wisdom to know when to turn around and give up.
Yeah.
But it wasn't as dangerous as that. But it involves a lot of risk assessment as well.
Sure. Do you miss it?
No, not now, because I mean, for a start, you have to spend your night sleeping in huts with sort of 15 Italians who are snoring all night, and it's not much of a way of spending a night, I tell you.
I love it. I love the humour as well.
Yeah.
So moving on from the sailing and the mountaineering, and you said you took up a little bit of running. How did that develop?
So we formed a running club in the village with the help of the local authorities, so that was good fun. And I also rode a bike occasionally and rode to work occasionally, and I could put a few lengths out in the pool, but not only breaststroke or backstroke, and not front crawl. But then a friend of mine suggested we got in. She teach us how to do a bit of swimming, and then some of the local triathlons that were on. And I thought, there's one locally. This was in the mid-90s, and so three of us did it as a relay. So I did the bike leg, and then the next year we thought we'd enjoyed that, so we decided we'd have a go and do it as individuals. So that was my first. I think it was 95, 96, my first full sprint on my own. And it was just really fun. I mean, I was pretty slow. My swimming wasn't up to much, and my aerobic capacity wasn't up to much for the biking and the running. But yeah, it was just fun. We used to have parties afterwards. It was just a bit of a laugh. So that was, and I tried a few standard distance, and my main asset was just keeping going under the worse the weather, the better I did, because I would just battle it out. But this was all pool-based triathlon, so this open water stuff wasn't for me. And I did that through the 90s and into, I think, about 2001. And then my husband started getting into long distance cycling. I started getting into longer distance running. So we spent most of the 2000s, the decade, doing different things. And I used to just sort of go out and run miles across the South Downs. So triathlon took a bit of a break from that for about 8-9 years.
Yeah. And did you do many marathons when you were running?
No, again, I think I got as far as half marathon distance, but with a knee that had far too much surgery on it, I was a bit wary of going much beyond that. Pounding the pavements wouldn't have been too good for it. And being so slow, of course, you'd have been hours after everybody else. So 10 miles, there were some good 10-mile races around here, which were quite fun. I did the Great South Run more times than I can remember. And but the height of my achievement there was to finish once I finished in under an hour and a half, so it was that was my achievement for that.
Yeah. Everybody's got goals.
Yeah. It was good fun, and it was we had a good crew at work who used to do these things, and then a few people also did triathlon. So I don't know, towards around 2009 or so, I thought, well, let's just sort of dabble back again into some of the really local triathlon, just one run by one of the local running clubs, and that was good fun, and that sort of set my mind into sort of getting back into it again. And then when I retired in 2011, I thought, well, now's the time to get back into that, because I've got all the time in the world to give it a good go. But of course, when you've got all the time in the world and you're 60 and you spent all your days training, you overtrain. This is not good. Yeah.
That must be quite strange, actually. Yeah, just filling your time in with, because like you said, you've just got all that time. And so how did that develop then? You've got all the time in the world and you love training. So did you overtrain?
Yes. I did. So, I'd run ridiculous. I could still go out and run 8-9 miles, and I'd still sort of go out all day on the bike. I was getting the hang of swimming a bit, but wasn't pretty. But it wasn't, it was fun doing the races, but I was just always, I was never last, but I was well at the back of the field. And I just thought that was me until around 2015, I think. A friend persuaded me to join her at a triathlon training weekend run by a company called Tri50, run by a lady called Jo Lewis. And we had a bit of fun there. And by the end of the weekend, I'm not sure if I persuaded Jo or the other way around, that she should coach me, because I realized there was so much more to learn and how I could be smarter with my training than just what I've been doing, which was just going out and riding and running and swimming. So I signed up with Jo, and bless her, I thought she was mad. She decided, I'd never heard of age group triathlon, totally new to me, and she says you could try and make the team. And A, I didn't know what it was, and B, come on, this is crazy. But within the year, she'd got me to the start line of my first international race by the total skin of my teeth. I must admit, but I made it there, and there started my international age group triathlon journey.
So when Jo took you on, what did she do radically different to how you were training then? You were training ad hoc, I guess, long distances, really enjoying it. What did she do to make it different?
So you train smarter, you do shorter distances, you do quality, not quantity. You learn how to swim, or approximately, and you do things like intervals and hill reps, and just really short and sharp stuff. And also, she makes you believe in yourself, which is a big thing. It's like I say, it's this thing about calling yourself an athlete. You don't think you're an athlete, but she convinced me that I was, and made us call ourselves athletes. And around the same, I'd joined the local triathlon club around 2013, I suppose, in Petersfield. And it is such a welcoming club. It's ridiculous. So they weren't, taken aback at getting me. And they're the people who got me swimming properly. So I had some really excellent swim teaching and swim coaching, and just training in company and surrounding yourself with people who've got similar interests. So that's the local club was great. And then combined with the moving into being coached properly, and also around the same time setting off on a journey to become a coach myself, because it was I wanted to help the club, and I said, okay, I'll train as a level 1 coach. There you are, that's fine. So that was a way of giving something back, and really encouraging people who don't think they're very good, people like me who don't think that they can become triathletes, getting them into the club, and particularly coaching them in swimming and showing them they can do it. It's that's very rewarding. So that was alongside my training as a triathlete, becoming a coach as well was part of it. So
did that, you giving other people belief, did that give you belief also?
I think it did, in a strange way. Interesting way of putting it, Rich. I realised that a lot of what these newbies were experiencing, the problems they had, were not so much physical in terms of doing the swimming, cycling and running. It was in their heads. They had to believe that they needed to get to the start line and not be frightened out of their wits, and not thinking they could do it. So there's a lot of mental training. And I realised at that point that although I didn't have the speed, I had the mental discipline and the ability to stand at a start line and to feel excited, yes, but not to feel completely overawed. So it was interesting to see people taking that journey and persuading them that they could do things that they didn't think they could do.
Yeah, I mean, we've all...
And that's that.
Yeah, I was going to say, we've all started from nothing, haven't we? You know what I mean? And we've all been along the journey, but still, we still have that doubt in our ability and how training's gone and where we're at. And, it's about 90% mental, I think, most of the time.
It is, by the time you get to the start line, it certainly is, yes. So having that belief that you've done the training and really engaging in that process of training, and sticking to the training plan, and having that belief that if you train hard and do it right on the race day, it will pay off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the number of times I've turned up and felt it's not going to be my day, it's not going to work, and then you've just had a really good race. You know, you've raced probably better than you ever thought you could, and it's all about believing, isn't it? And
and I think for me, I've only ever I really enjoy the training, and my only aim in races, I turn up and try and enjoy it. It's not always easy, but I've never seen myself as being competitive. So it wasn't, oh, can I make the podium? It was, oh, can I finish the course and perhaps not be last? Certainly in my first couple of international races, it was, oh wow, I wasn't actually last, and that's was began to bolster my belief in myself. And you've got to say, well, look, this is European or World Championships, and okay, I'm only racing the over 65s, but I wasn't last. So that was, and I think that attitude to racing, in a way, it's strange not having too great expectation of myself, but going through the process to make sure I can do my best. You can't control anybody else, but you can make damn sure that you do your best. Yeah. And if it beats somebody, that's great, and if it doesn't beat somebody, that's also great. Now, interesting, I did manage at Munich last August. I actually got on the podium, and it was. I'm now with a different coach, and he coached me up to that point, and it obviously paid off. And then John Cowell, who's the team manager for the Europeans, the course was lovely. The swim and the bike were lovely, and then the run course, they sent it up the only hill in the Olympic Park, and I thought, I can't do this. And there was JC standing at the bottom of this hill, screaming at people, saying, "You're not walking now," and it sort of frightened me into keeping going. And because of that. Because of my new coach, who's a guy called Abe Bungay from Goldsmith Coaching, and JC having that belief in me that I didn't have myself, that I could run up that hill, I actually got third place. And the effect of that mentally was quite interesting, because I'd always regarded myself as something of an imposter. What am I doing here with all these incredibly good athletes, and the over 70s? There's some really, really good athletes, particularly coming up this year. And suddenly I thought, after Munich, no, actually, I'm entitled to be here. I can do it. I've been on that podium. May not be this year because there's people coming into the age group.
But the thing phenomenal. Is, it's another step for that belief, isn't it? You know what I mean? Yeah. You've done it. You'll do it again. I'm sure you'll do it again. Yeah. So you've ticked that box. So just going back to how he got into age group, what was your first qualifying race?
It was at Eton Dorney. A lot of my qualifying races are at Eton Dorney because I live in the south, and I didn't realise then how hard it is to qualify at Eton Dorney, because there's such a huge catchment area, and it's such a fast course that everybody turns up. So you'd be much better off. And I did once go and do a qualifying race in up near Dundee, which, because there's much smaller pack up there, but so I didn't even know in that Eton Dorney race, which was beginning of 2017, I suppose. I thought I'd missed it because I knew what my time was. I knew what the winner of my age group time was. I'm a mathematician. I'd done the numbers, and it was outside the 115%. So I thought, oh, okay, that was fun. That was interesting, but it doesn't matter. And then I met someone locally who said, oh, okay, let's have a look. He says, no, you've qualified. And because the rules are so arcane, I didn't know that the person who won hadn't actually been registered. So actually, I got fourth Q4 in my age group, and I got a place at Rotterdam, which was all quite bizarre.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's fantastic to get a Q4. Any Q positions, like fair play. I mean, even well, any position, if you get a roll down, you know what I mean? They're all as valid as each other as far as I'm concerned. So you've done the hard work and you've made it. So
yeah, and I've had a few places quotes at team managers' discretion, because let's face it, there aren't too many in the over 70s women's category, and if you've got close, then you sometimes get a place, and I've done okay, but I've also got places out of by Q place or from got in third place at Munich last year. Of course, I get a pre-qualification place in Madrid. So,
Bob,
yeah.
So how did it continue then from Rotterdam?
Well, Rotterdam was the big experience, and the learning that being super organised is really important, because that was my first international race, and it was a split transition. Just to make it really, really complicated. But I had everything laid out and everything sorted, spreadsheets everywhere, sort of what to do, what I needed to take where and when. And the next year was the Europeans were in Glasgow, so I thought, well, I might as well it'd be churlish not to. And of course, you get a little bit more leeway in the qualification times to get to Europeans. So ended up for the following year at Glasgow. And those were in the days where you did the qualifying race in the same year as the international competition.
Yeah.
It was all quite fast and furious. Glasgow was interesting. The bike course was very lumpy, and I'm not good on hills. I live on the South Downs, but I'm not good on hills. But again, it was good fun, and it started to be a pattern of my year that I need one international race a year if I can get into one, and then we'll build the rest of our summer around it. So following on from the Glasgow, I forget what came next. Lausanne, you're right. You've got my notes.
I've got it written down.
Thank you. I'm glad about that. So yes, so that was another Worlds in Lausanne just before the world went to rats and we ended up in lockdown. And I really enjoyed that because I knew how to race then. I knew what it was like to be in this big international bun fight and getting everything ready. So that was good fun. And the bike course there was ridiculously hilly. An Australian in front of me got off and pushed her bike up one of the hills. So I felt quite good actually. I could actually make it up that hill. So that was good fun, and it was a good experience. Yeah.
And then you went on to Munich.
Well, then we did, in between that we had Valencia. So we obviously lost a year somewhere along the way. Lots of cancelled. I think it was Malmo I should have been going to. That got cancelled, obviously. Bermuda got cancelled, but then Valencia. And quite a few of us went out from the club to that, so that was quite fun. And did okay there, and then onto Munich last year, which was a real experience. Yeah, so it's good fun. And my husband, who's a cyclist, but he comes along and supports and takes all the photos, so he's very good at supporting me and going around all these crazy places.
Yeah, and it's nice that you can do it together as well. Myself and my wife, Ian, both raced. That was her first race internationally, so it's really nice to see. And it's great. You can train together. Well, we can train together, and you can go and do stuff together. So
we go out on the bikes together. He's a much stronger cyclist than I am, but he's quite happy to mix it. Just come along with my group of sort of older club members, all women who train together. So we've got a good training group going. Yeah,
that's really nice.
As a result of which, I've got a very busy year coming up now because I've qualified for I'd already got a place for the Worlds in Hamburg sprint, and then Madrid. I got because I'd already qualified anyway, but I got the place because I was third in Munich. And then one of my friends in the club said, well, why don't you put your hat in the ring for the aquathon? I said, well, because I quite like swimming and then running. It's a good fun thing to do. particularly if you live down near the sea, you can do some sea swimming and then go for a run along the seafront. And so I threw my times into that process, and my swimming's fine, and my swimming has come along well, so I can easily meet the time they need for the swim. I'm marginal for the running, but I can do a 5K in 35 minutes on a good day, and that's what they require of the over 70s to be able to do. So so I've also got the European and World Aquathon Championships, so it's proving to be a sort of busy summer.
You are going to be busy. You are going to be busy, but you're going to enjoy it and you're going to love it.
Well, certainly the aquathons are they're there just for the sheer love of it, because it's I just love that. Get out of the water, get your wetsuit off, and run, and your body's nicely warmed up, and it's just a great feeling at that point. And you don't have to take a bike with you either.
I was just going to say that you don't have to bother with all the faff of the bike. It must be quite liberating, actually.
It is. So this time we're off Ibiza's 1st of May, but before that we've got 10 days of holiday and training in Mallorca, and I'm just going to rent a bike out in Mallorca. So we get to travel without the bikes for a change, which is just make life a whole lot simpler.
So did you say Mallorca's part of a training camp then?
Well, no, that's me. Just my husband and I go out to. I have done the odd training camps with Joe down in Lanzarote and Fuerteventura, but we now my husband and I go out to Mallorca twice a year, once April and once end of September for a holiday. Because what else are you going to do when you're retired? Yeah. And so we spend 10 days or a couple of weeks, and cycling, swimming, running. He acts as beach watch while I go out swimming in the bay, and then I do a bit of running up and down the seafront. So it's a sort of training, but because my coach will set me things to be doing, but it's also a holiday of visiting all our favourite restaurants, all our favourite bars, and just enjoying the scenery, because it is such a beautiful country. We do something similar
for a fortnight, usually round about January, February time, and over in Lanzarote.
Yes,
same place every year.
We very nearly headed off to the Canaries this January, February, and I couldn't quite get the hotel I wanted to go to, so we actually skipped that, because normally at that time of year we're going skiing and snowboarding, but we've now decided to give that up because my knee really can't take the snowboarding anymore. So that frees up the January, February time, so I think the Canaries may be calling.
That's
next
fabulous.
Year.
Fabulous bit of hot weather time when it's really miserable in England.
Yeah.
Great stuff. I'm going to ask you the quick fire questions. What's your favourite bit of kit?
It's got to be the bike. I mean, it is the swimming and running don't need much. Although I've now got a new pair of running shoes, which I'm extremely keen on. But the overly expensive bike, which doesn't make me go any faster, but just feels like a dream, and looks good in transition. That would be my favourite bit of kit.
And what bike have you got?
I've got a Specialized Roubaix S-Works, so it's about 10 grand's worth, and was a treat to myself about 3 or 4 years ago. Suits me very well because I've got a very long body and short legs, and the Roubaix is quite a long bike, so it fits me really well. Other race bikes, they would really struggle to make it work for me. So that's my favorite bike.
Cool.
And
nice
I suppose
nice.
Yeah,
they do it.
One of the reasons I got that was when I was racing in Lausanne, and it was a hugely steep downhill bit with a right hand bend at the bottom with bales of hay to catch the people as they fell off and didn't make the corner. And I knew that I could have taken that a lot quicker if I had disc brakes on my bike.
Yeah.
So I thought, disc brakes, I could have gained a few seconds there. So, and then it comes with electronic gear shifters as well, and it is a delight to ride. Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
Right.
Perfect. What sort of resources do you use to help you with your training?
Well, so there's two angles. I mean, a good coach And I've had two very good coaches. I've also coached myself, which is quite interesting. But for me, it's the mental discipline. You can have all the talent in the world, but if you haven't got that mental discipline to do the training, to stick to what you've been told to do, to not run too fast. If you're doing a zone 2 run, do a zone 2 run. And so my lack of innate talent is balanced out by a mental discipline to training, which it pays off.
Yeah. And what do you use for that mental training then? Is there any?
I don't know. No, I think it's just built in me. I mean, I think I became really aware of that ability to bury myself in doing what needed to be done when I had my knee surgery, and spent 9 months being put through rehab in the local naval hospital. And it shows you that you can do things you don't think perhaps you can. So to go from not really being able to walk to be on crutches to be on a bike and then starting to run again, it shows you can overcome a huge number of things.
And you never forget that, do you?
No, you don't. It's inbuilt now, so it gives you belief in yourself that you didn't think you had before.
Yeah, it's amazing what you can put or experience, and it sort of gives you a steely determination to crack things, I think.
It is, and I think it's also something that you can pass over when you're coaching people. You can pass some of that experience onto them and show them how they can improve. So that's a great thing to do.
Yeah, it is. What advice would you give to anybody wanting to get into triathlon and those that are already in triathlon, maybe wanting to try and qualify for GB?
Well, for those coming into triathlon, and we've got some real life experience of that at the moment, because our clubs runs a triathlon in Peacefield in September every year. So we're now getting people just joining the club saying, "Oh, I thought I've entered the race. Can I join the club and learn how to do it?" So and for me, it's first and foremost enjoy it, but then do put some training, prepare yourself properly, but above all, just try and enjoy it. And it's such a welcoming sport, triathlon, and it doesn't really matter where you are, what level of racing. Everyone is so supportive, and you'll get people at the waiting at the finish line for the very last person to finish a race come staggering over the line, and there'll be a round of applause for that person who's given everything they had and they've made it. And they haven't set the world on fire, but they achieved something they didn't think they could achieve. And as for age group, I mean, it's for the older age groups. For me, being over 70, it's different. I mean, you said your age group is really, really competitive. Even the 65 to 69-year-old women's age group for sprint triathlon, there's some phenomenal results. A little bit easier over 70. It's you do have a few people drop off, but again, you can't control other people. All you can do is train your best and race your best, and if it's good enough to qualify, then you're there by right, and then go and certainly for your first international event, just go and enjoy it. It's going to be completely mind-blowing. Don't let yourself get overwhelmed by it. Just enjoy the experience of you're running there with a GB kit on, and believe how good you are.
Yeah, you've earned it.
You've earned it. You certainly have.
And I think finally, we've pretty much touched on your short-term goals, which is going to be a fun-filled summer of events. So what is your longer-term goals?
Well, I guess, once you get over 70, longer-term goals start to have a different meaning, don't they? Staying fit and healthy is the main thing. So the other thing about the training is that as you get older, I am so much fitter and stronger than my friends of my age who don't do that. And that stands you in good stead. So I want to stay fit and strong. I will keep doing triathlon, as long as my body holds out, and as long as I'm enjoying it. So at the moment, I'm really enjoying it. And I would really, I want to get through the 70 to 75 age group. And you see the people who are competing, and there aren't that many women, the over 75s and even over 80s, but there are a few, and you look at them and think, yeah, they can do it. I could do that. So stay fit, stay healthy, work on your strength and conditioning, because that's so important as you get older, so that you can take the rest of the training, and just see what happens. See what happens.
And just one quick question: what did your non-athletic friends think?
I guess they've got used to me. They are quite. I think some of them are quite proud of me, and we just accept that we're different. And certainly for those friends I've known for, say, 50 years, they didn't think this is what I was going to be doing. I didn't think this was what I was going to be doing when I was 60, 70 years old. So they've come on that journey with me. And, the friends I was at university with, they watch with wry amusement of what I get up to, and I watch with wry amusement of what they get up to. And we're still friends. That's friendship.
And do you see a great difference between, and I mean this from a physical point of view, and like we've been talking about how important strength is, and do you see a big difference between yourself and those people who don't really exercise much?
Yes, it would happen. You won't notice it so much earlier in your life, but once you get to over 60, over 70, you can tell those who've kept their bodies moving. And particularly, as you get older and the inevitable illnesses come along, then that strength pays off. And the mental attitude that comes with that training pays off. So it's so important. I've got a friend in the village who he's 85 now, and he had to give up running for Wales when he was 80. But he now walks 5 miles a day, goes to the gym 3 times a week, and he says it's because he doesn't want to fall over.
Yeah.
So
100%.
that becomes the aim. Yeah. Stay fit and strong and healthy.
Yeah, because you're right. Then you've hit the nail on the head. That falling over, like when you're older and you haven't got the stability or the strength to get you back up, that is it. That's end point.
It is.
What do people die of? Well, actually, they die of falling over.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It's as sad as that, really. So fair play to you, and I'm sure you're inspiring, people around your age group and younger, far younger, to look at you and think, well, wow.
Well, I get that a lot in the club, because obviously everybody else in the club, there's a couple of friend and I who are both age groupers. We're the oldest in the club. And all the youngsters say, who are much quicker than us, they say, but you're such an inspiration, you're such a motivation, and you don't see it like that yourself, do you?
No, but 100%. We've got a guy in our club, and he's 78, and he's same. He's just an inspiration, and it's you want to, me in my 50s, I want to be like him in 20 years' time, and it's that. Yeah. So you guys, we see you at races, and we want to be like you. So that's brilliant. Well, I think that's a great place to land it. Thank you ever so much again. It's been a lovely chat.
No problem.
Much appreciated. It's been lovely to chat to you again, and just good luck and smash it, and enjoy your holiday, enjoy Ibiza, and I'll be looking out for your results and things. And been great to speak to you.
Okay, cheers then, Rich.
See you later.
Cheers then. Bye.
Bye. Thanks once again to Julie for reaching out and wanting to come on a podcast and sharing that wonderful story. If you're not inspired by that, well, I'm not sure. I don't know what we're going to do. Remarkable lady. So I hope you enjoyed it. And good luck to Julie in what she's got coming up this year and in the future. And we'll be keeping an eye out on what she does, as we do with all the AMP guests that we've had on. And that brings us to the end of episode 73. Thank you once again for listening. And if you could head over to your platform that you listen to the podcasts on and leave us a review and a rating, and subscribe to this podcast, it would be much appreciated, as it helps us get our podcast out to a wider audience of like-minded people. And if you'd like to come on the podcast and share your story, please drop us an email at agegroupmultisportpodcast@gmail.com, or you can get in touch with us on the usual social media. We're on Instagram at amp_1967, where you can just DM us there. We're also on Facebook at ampgb. Again, you can DM us on that. And we're also on Twitter at Age Group Multisport Podcast. So thank you once again, and don't forget, stay safe, keep training, and love the process.